everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I have another interview for you today. I got to sit down with Corinne Olympios to talk about her career, the kind of unconventional or irregular way she got into the show business, and what she's doing now to make her own path. It's really cool. She was someone who never had aspirations at working in the entertainment industry, and a friend submitted her for The Bachelor, and she got picked. And from there, she just, was herself, put her personality out there, and now she's moving more into the comedy and kind of late night show format. She talks about dreams of having a late night show at some point, and she's going on a comedy tour that she set up herself, but it's not just her doing straight stand up, it's more of that late night or variety show aspect. It's going to be her doing some jokes, doing some banter, talking to a guest host. She didn't announce the name yet. She's got musical guests that hasn't announced the names yet. It's the first one is going to be February 20th in Huntington Beach, so we tried to get this up for anyone who's in the area to go and check that out, but also check her socials and things like that for more tour dates. Anyway, this was a really fun conversation. Also make sure to check out her podcast, Corinne Saves Us All, wherever you get your podcasts. Enjoy the interview. Hey everyone, Adam here, So Wizard Podcast. I'm sitting down with Corinne Olympios to talk her career and an upcoming comedy show she has. How you doing, Corinne?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for doing this. Should be fun.
Yes.
So before we get to your show specifically, it seems like you've had a really varied career where you're kind of I'm not sure what the word would be. You're marketing yourself more than a product. Does that sound right? I mean, maybe that sounds bad. I mean, sorry. You have a lot of appearances as yourself, and you were on The Bachelor a couple times. It looks like. So you kind of want to
Yes.
give the rundown of everything that's been going on.
Well, yeah, I started out on The Bachelor. I was on Nick's season, and then I did Bachelor in Paradise, and then I've done a bunch of other TV stuff and podcasting and just really been having fun in the industry.
Awesome. So was The Bachelor because it's reality TV, but it seems like reality TV is mostly stocked by people who want to be in the industry, and it's just kind of a different path in. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I feel like it didn't always used to be like that. I feel like now it is. And I feel like that's why like the show changed a lot from when it first started because I feel like now it's just like I want to be an influencer, so I'm going to go on the show. So,
That's kind of the impression I got too. Yeah,
yeah,
but that was different for your earlier season.
yeah. I mean, I didn't realize at all that it was going to slingshot me into this industry for like ever. Um, I really didn't realize at the time. Um, and it was everyone was telling me it was going to happen. I was like, no, it's not. Like, what are you talking about? And it did, and it's been a wild ride.
So being part of the entertainment industry wasn't your original goal. You just figured the show would be a good time, and that was kind of the end of it, or you didn't think past that.
Yeah, well, I had just broken up with my ex, and um my friend submitted me, and they called me, and I was like, wait, what? And I just wound up doing it. I don't even really know how. It just kind of happened.
Okay, well, that's got to be a surreal experience where you didn't even know you were up for it, and then however many weeks later, you're on a major national TV show.
Yeah, it it's definitely weird. It was definitely very weird. But it was fun. We had watch parties, and the whole experience is super surreal and really fun.
So from there, because you already kind of had a foot in the door, did you just decide to pick up the ball and run, or did one thing kind of snowball into another more organically?
Um, it kind of just snowballed really. I was lucky and didn't really have to like put much effort into putting myself like out there into the industry more. The industry kind of like welcomed me with open arms, which was super fun. And that's kind of how I got into comedy. I never like my whole team was pushing me to do stand up after the show because they're just like you're just so quick and like on like just with it when you're just being you and I was like I'll never do stand up comedy and now here we are. I'm starting my tour this weekend.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
So, what was your team? Is like a PR people, manager, that like typical kind of showbiz
Yeah,
team?
manager, agent, PR, all the stuff.
What was your plan after The Bachelor? If you didn't want to do stand up, did you want to like write comedy or do skits? Or you mentioned you did some podcasting.
Well, I honestly I didn't really know what I wanted to do after. I was just having so much fun. It wasn't really like in my brain like, oh, this isn't going to last, like this part of entertainment isn't going to last forever. But then things just kept coming and this and that, and then I started to realize like, oh, what else can I do? I want to do a lot more stuff. I My main goal is to have a late night TV show one day. I
Oh,
just
there you
think
go.
that suits me really well, and I love like making people laugh, talking to people, interviewing people. It's just something that is like the main goal here for me now, and I don't think I really knew what I wanted to do right when I got off the show.
That's a cool plan. It's nice that you have a path now and you're making moves toward it.
Yeah, my tour, it's not straight away stand-up comedy. It's a mixture of like a lot of different things. I have musical guests, I have a co-host. It's kind of like a live podcast but with stand-up as well.
Okay, so not like sketch comedy. There are no skits, right?
No, 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 no. Just like some stand-up, some guests. I have a musical guest who's coming to sing. Um, just a lot of really fun stuff. It's basically just gonna be like a nice big party on stage.
It kind of sounds like you're doing a late night show format already.
Exactly.
You're just not waiting for the show.
I'm sneaking my late night show into the industry this way.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. And since you can promote it yourself, it's a good shortcut. You don't have to wait for NBC to give you a call.
Exactly.
So where did the what was the genesis for this whole tour? Like you weren't too into the idea of stand up, but now it seems like you're doing a little bit and you want to do the late night show and this is kind of a hybrid. Is Was that just I'm going to do it myself or did someone else kind of push you toward it?
Well, my team really wanted me to do stand up, so I agreed to do it. So like 2 years ago, I started doing some tight fives at the Comedy Store on Sunset in LA.
Okay.
And I actually really liked it. And I got such a great feedback from the crowd and that I just kept doing it. And then I got an opportunity to headline at the Irvine Improv. And that was going to kick off my original tour. But then the pandemic hit and that tour got shut down real quick.
Yeah.
So now I'm starting back up again.
Oh, that's awesome. It's really cool you got to kind of start at the comedy store. That's a huge name.
I know. Yeah. It was really, really cool.
And that was at your like literal start, like set number one. You're at the comedy store. Did you kind of
Yep.
do like a bunch of wow?
Oh, well, actually, my very first one was at this little bar. And like I like am not the kind of person that can like study something for months and then like be able to go and do it. Like I'm like a like I gotta like read it over like 3 times before and I'm good to go. I can't just
Okay.
like sit and like do something for so long or I'll just get like scatterbrained and like it'll feel way too rehearsed. So for me, I kind of like doing like the bullet point thing and rolling with it from there. But yeah, I started at this little club and everyone was really my whole team was like this is going to be a disaster. And it was not a disaster. It was amazing. And then right then and there I started going comedy store without even really like practicing anything.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
If we rewind a little bit, do you mind if I ask what your life was like before The Bachelor? Because I always think of stand-up comedy as like the hardest thing you could do in show business because it's just you up there completely raw, like vulnerable. Did you
Yeah.
have a
Well,
problem like getting on stages before or sorry?
no, I mean, I never really had. My life before was just very normal. I worked for my family. I lived in Miami, just normal girl. Um, it's funny because when I say I do stand up, like people's reactions are like, "Oh my god, like so hard, this, that," and like it makes me rethink, like, am I doing this right? Like, is this like okay what I'm doing? Am I half-assing this? But this is just like the way I do it. And like when people have that reaction to like comedy, I'm like, oh my God, like, am I doing this like not good enough? Like, but then I have to realize like what works for me and like it does work for me. So I guess I'm just blessed, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a total outsider, so take everything I say. I'm just curious.
No, yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, getting right before you walk on stage, it's like my heart is like in my vagina. It's like the scariest moment of my life, and then it's great.
Yeah, I can only imagine that feeling of just stepping out in front of a crowd of people who are just expecting, okay, make me laugh. Come on.
Yeah, yeah. That's what like gets me is like, oh my god, like if they don't laugh, it's like the worst feeling ever.
It has to be, yeah. And then you probably get desperate where it's like, okay, my next joke was this, but they might not go for it. So and you're just thinking all this, million
Yeah, but
things
like
in a second.
I'm like quick to like change direction or like I'll even like say things to them like okay, insert laughter here, like, and like they'll laugh at that and it's like but I actually like meant that. So it's like
Right. Found a few icebreakers.
yeah. So yeah, it's definitely like just learning how to navigate the stage basically.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, your style, you said you kind of do bullet points and you more, you have a premise and you riff a bit. Do you also implement crowd work beyond like kind of that icebreaker thing?
Yeah, well, I love interacting with the audience, so I like will ask them questions. I'll like talk I'll be like very interactive with them, which also makes me feel more comfortable and I think the fans really enjoy that because they feel like they're talking to like up there with me, talking to me, just having a fun conversation, having a fun night. And it's like that also keeps me very relatable, which was like the whole thing about me from the get-go, even being on the show is just people loved me because I was so relatable.
I guess that makes sense because if you are on a reality show and people are drawn to you, they are drawn to what your personality that you're putting out. So keeping it relatable makes a lot of sense that that's your personality, that's who you are.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
that's cool. It's cool that you were able to find a way to translate it to stand-up comedy where it seems like this totally different world.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I never in a million years thought I'd be doing this, but here we are. It's what works best for me, and I didn't even know it.
And you're having fun doing it.
I am having fun. It's going to be great. I am nervous just cuz I haven't been on stage in about 2 years.
Yeah.
Um but that's why I'm keeping it more late night format rather than just straight away stand up comedy because it'll be much easier for me to ease back in like that as well.
Yeah, and that's a smart move because then you also have some friends up there with you and you can bounce things off of people, which I'm sure makes it easier.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm one of those girls that like can't do anything alone. Like I hate being alone. I hate doing things alone. So getting up on stage alone is like seriously really scary for me. So I don't even know how I did the first time, but that's like something I'm super proud of. But this time I'm like, no, I just like spent 2 years like in a pandemic. Like I'm gonna have people up there with me this time to get
Right, yeah.
started.
Get your friends around you.
Yeah.
So as far as that aspect of it goes, I mean, I'm sure you have a structure plan where this is you telling jokes, this is you and your friend or your co-host, this is the music interlude that you have.
Yep.
Are those like your banter with your friend? Is that a written script or is this totally off the cuff? You're just having a good time?
Totally off the cuff. Just having a great time.
And is your friend or co-host also a comedian or comedians if you have multiple people?
She and I we lived together when I lived in LA and like we just are just like so like like in tune with each other. We know each other so well that it's just going to feel like you're just hanging out with us in our living room. Um we're just constantly making each other laugh. We just get each other to a different level. So it'll be really easy for us to bounce jokes off each other and have them translate really well.
Okay, that's cool. So it's someone
Yeah.
you're already really comfortable with. It's not just like a business arrangement.
Yes. No, no. I would never bring someone up on stage with me that I wasn't super, super comfortable with already.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And how'd you go about picking the musical talent? Is that friends also?
Um, I actually admired this person for a while, and he just did a special on Saturday Night Live, and then we kind of connected while I was in LA working on the show, and I asked him to come on, and he is. So I'm really excited for you guys to all be introduced to him
Oh, that's awesome.
on a comedy stage.
Yeah, and that's a cool mix too with the comedy and music, so you can really get that variety show feel.
Exactly, exactly. It's totally late night format, and I'm just gonna try and like have a lot of fun with it.
And you said this is kicking off a tour. It's not just the one date in Huntington Beach.
Yeah, so I will be announcing more tour dates after this weekend. But yeah, I'm gonna be traveling around, and I can't wait to like just do different stages and meet different crowds and people, and I'm really excited.
And you picked a good time too, because things are finally now getting a little bit more relaxed and opening up, and people are ready to get out there.
Yes, exactly. A lot of the clubs still have like restrictions of like people, like they'll only fill half, which like for me right now is good. And as time goes on, I'll get more comfortable doing bigger and bigger crowds. This is going to be about 150 people, um, and I just hope to get bigger crowds in the future
Yeah, it's
when
definitely not a
things
bad
really
crowd.
start opening up.
Yeah, for sure. Is this going to be recorded also?
I'm hoping I can record it. A lot of comedy clubs don't let you.
Oh, that makes
Um,
sense. Yeah.
but because I'm doing it like the Corinne live show, like I'm just hoping I'll be able to record it.
Because at the very beginning of our conversation, you mentioned you did some podcasting. Do you have your own show, or you were just on some other people's podcasts? Or
No, I had 2 podcasts. I still have my second one, but, I was with podcast 1 and I had So Random with them. It was really fun, and then I broke off on my own, and now I do my own podcast, Corinne Saves Us All, and it's just really fun. I talk about, like, my life and pop culture, and I do a segment where, like, I help girls that need help with dating, and it's really just fun.
it sounds like your two worlds are kind of already crossed over. Like your live stage thing could also go with your podcast and vice versa.
Exactly, exactly. I'm excited to see how it's gonna turn out. Like, is it gonna turn into just like a really big podcast? Or is this gonna turn into a late night show? Is this something that I'm just gonna like put on YouTube or like, you know what I mean? Like I'm kind of just letting it roll.
Yeah, that's a good plan. Don't overthink it. Don't get in your own way.
Yeah, because I'm that person that will just sit there and try to plan and try to overthink and then it'll just blow up. And I'm like, you know what? It's gonna be what it's gonna be. It's gonna be a great show and it's gonna turn into something, whether it's a podcast, a YouTube show, just a tour. You never know.
Yeah, that's a good move because you could get crippled by indecision. Like, is this the
Yeah,
perfect time? Is do we do this? Do we have this right? And then you never make that move, and 5 years go by.
exactly.
uh, how did you go about putting something this big together? I mean, you had the whole pandemic to think about it and get the
Yeah.
ideas, but to actually book the place and get the crowd and all that, what was the logistics of that like?
Well, I was supposed to go on tour right before the pandemic. Everyone was super upset, but we knew we would pick it back up after. So um, we started planning this back in the summer, and this club specifically really wanted to have me in a while ago. I actually had a date in November, but then the pandemic, like the COVID was still a thing and like
Mhm.
I just wasn't comfortable yet and so we moved it to now and I just feel like it's a much better time now. So it kind of just happened and I agreed to do this place that's been wanting to have me in for a while to kick it off because it's only going to be about 100 to 150 people and I just think it's a great place to start.
Okay, that's really cool that you already had the place set up, so it was just a matter of doing what you wanted to do.
Correct. Yep, totally.
So that tour 2 years ago that didn't happen. It was supposed to be this exact thing.
No, actually, it was more straightaway stand up. I've totally evolved like the format of the show into just like all the guests and talking to the crowd and this and that. So we were like, okay, this is more like a live show, not just stand up comedy, which I think is more me anyways. So I'm really happy about that.
Yeah, it's maybe a blessing in disguise you had that extra time. Maybe 2 years was a bit too much, but you had that extra time to think about it.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
As far as the stand up and the premise, because I know you like to go off the cuff, you said, but do you sit down and come up with jokes or like think about a premise and oh maybe that one doesn't have enough in mind, but this one over here, there's a lot you could do with that?
So what I do is I sit down and I make bullet points and I kind of work out some jokes for in the bullet within the bullet points, but everything else around it, like all the fluff, it's not scripted. It's just the jokes are there, and um they're written into the bullet point, but the whole bullet point isn't scripted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you have your key points, but
Yeah,
you talk around it and you fill it in.
exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot
Exactly.
of sense. That's a part of stand up that always fascinates me is like you're looking at a blank screen or a blank piece of paper is like where do you start? And then you're in a bubble. How do you know what's funny? You know that kind of thing. It's just
Yeah. Well, hi. Hi, sorry. Well,
sorry,
a
phone
lot
call.
of comedians really like take years like going to different comedy clubs and like working on these jokes, and like that's also something that recently I was like, "Oh god, like maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Like I don't do that." And like I just like don't think I could ever do that. And but then I was like, "No, like the way I'm doing it is more me." And like I've second guessed myself a lot because of that. But yeah, comedians take years to work out their jokes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I heard it takes, a good one, 2, 3 years to make an hour-long special, but that's not exactly the same thing you're doing, and like you said, you have to do what works for you,
Exactly.
because I'm sure there's no 2 people who are exactly the same.
No. No.
Plus, with you doing a podcast, I have to imagine just putting in those hours of speaking, it's doing reps, you're getting it out there.
What do you mean? Sorry, I missed
Um,
that.
well, you haven't been on stage in a couple years, but you have still been doing podcasts and things like that.
Oh yeah.
So you're still
Totally.
talking, you're still being funny, even if it's not straight up stand up comedy like you're doing on stage. So it's not
Yeah.
like you're totally raw.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm always constantly like in comedian mode, like whenever I'm doing anything, whether it's, you know, like an interview or a podcast interview or just anything. I'm constantly working it in, and I'm constantly writing things down. So I'm never not in that space.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you'll have a few minutes of kicking the rust off, and you'll probably just fall into old patterns.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's really exciting. It's really cool to see people put this kind of stuff together because there's so many people. I'm from a small suburb and there's a lot of people who want to do things. And then it's the same people 10, 15 years later who want to do things and nothing's been done. So
Yeah, totally.
it's cool talking to somebody who's doing it.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else you want to plug? I mean, I know the show probably has been eating up all of your time for months now, but
I mean, this is just me and my teddy bear and my dog, literally just every day working on the show. So, yeah, it takes a lot of my time up right now.
I'm sure it does. It's really exciting though. I hope it goes well for you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope to see everyone out in Huntington Beach on Sunday, Rec Room, 7 p.m. Be there or be square.
Great. And if you want to follow up once you get more tour dates or whatever, you could just shoot them through your PR person to my email or whatever, and we can at least make a post for you.
Amazing. That sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, have a good one.
You too. I'd like to thank Corinne one more time for taking time out of her busy schedule planning this upcoming comedy show to come on the show and talk to us about her career and what's going to go on with the Corinne Show is the tour. It's kicked off February 20th in Huntington Beach if you're in that area. Otherwise, check her socials for more upcoming tour dates. She plans on making this bigger and bigger. Please make sure you like and subscribe. We have a lot more interviews, new movie coverage, unboxings, everything that, everything you like. You're not going to want to miss out. Speaking of not wanting to miss out, make sure you listen to So Wizard Podcast every single week, wherever you get your podcasts. So Wizard Podcast can also be found on Patreon, where for as little as $1 a month, you get multiple monthly bonus shows. We love hearing feedback, so drop us a note in the comments, leave us something on social media. All the accounts can be found after the show and in the show notes. SoWizardPodcast.com is your resource for reviews, recommendations, videos, merchandise, and more. And on a more personal note, a good friend and I have an ongoing comedy comic series. It's called Social Studies, and I made this cool video, so check it out and find everything social studies at socialstudiescomic.com. Thanks.